Hello everyone. So in this video I would like to dispel a myth, and that myth is if you go full frame you have to spend thousands of dollars on expensive lenses. Now all these lenses here cost me less than $1,000 and they satisfy my shooting scenarios for 99% of the time. So in this video I'm going to go through each of these lenses, tell you why it's good and how much it costs. Now, if you just went full frame, you have no full frame lenses, and you have a trip coming up the next weekend, there's one lens you should get, and that is this one. It's the 28 to 200 millimeter f3.5 to 5.6 G. So this will satisfy most of the everyday travel focal lengths. So 28 is wide angle, 200 is telephoto. So everything in between you can satisfy with this lens. The aperture values they're not very large, so it's okay because you're traveling and you want portability and you want everything in one lens and you don't have time to get other lenses yet, so this is the one I would recommend as an emergency starting lens. It does not have vibration reduction, but that's okay. You can up the ISO on the D700 to compensate. So here it is, the 28-200 mounted on the D700. It does not have an AFS motor, but that's okay. You can see it focuses with the internal motor of the D700. Now one thing to note is make sure you get the G version because the previous version of this has a really far minimum focus range. So this will focus down to much closer range and is useful for people shooting. So this is the 28 to 200 on the D700. Another zoom lens that I will highly recommend, even if you're not on a budget, is the Nikon 35 to 70 millimeter f2.8 zoom lens. So this has a constant aperture of 2.8 throughout the range from 35, which is wide angle, to 70, which is telephoto to portrait. So it has a push-pull zoom mechanism, which you'll get used to very easily. It also has a macro mode where when in 35 millimeter you press this and you can focus down to very close distances. So this lens is made of all metal, made in Japan, and actually is a predecessor to the new and far more expensive mid-range zoom lens, such as the 28 to 70 or the 24 to 70. Those ones cost about $1,500 or more. This one, the price is about $300. The optical quality or the actual glass inside, it's about the same caliber as the new professional lenses. This lens is very sharp, corner to corner. As soon as you hit f/4, which is about the same kind of quality of glass as you expect from the more professional lenses. In fact, this was the professional mid-range lens for Nikon cameras until Nikon introduced the newer generations. So a very solid lens, built like a tank, great optical quality, very useful range for focal length, great for low light with 2.8, and great for blurred background at 70 with the 2.8 aperture, and all in a great price of about $300 to $350. So here is the 35 to 70 millimeter mounted on the D700. It's a heavy lens because it's all metal and has large glass, but with the D700 it feels very balanced and it's a very hefty and solid setup. The focus is done by internal motor, so here I'm gonna show you. It's a little noisy, but it's very fast. So unless you shoot indoors at a very quiet event, this should be okay. And of course the bang sound here at the end is because this cannot find focus. So usually it would focus before it hits that point. So this is more like it. In this case, once you go into the macro mode, it's all manual focus, and that's done automatically. So this is the 35-70, which cost me $300, and it's a great mid-range zoom lens on the Nikon full frame. Now, prime lenses are a great way to get superb image quality and great low light performance in a very cheap package. So this lens, the 35mm f/2D, is a great walk around lens. It's 35mm, so it's a very useful wide angle focal length. So whatever your eyes can see, you can probably photograph without moving around too much. And it's aperture value of 2, which means it's great for low light. It's also made in Japan, and the build quality is superb. So this is a great light little lens for walking around in the evening, at night, indoors, even outdoors during daylight. It performs very well. When you stop down, maybe by one stop, this lens is sharp corner to corner. So great optics in a compact package. Right. Here is the 35mm f/2D mounted on the D700. The focus is once again done by the internal motor. The focus is very fast, much faster than the newer AFS lenses, and also adds barely any weight to the camera, so you can walk around with this and not be tracked down by it. The price I paid for this, $250. Now another prime lens I would highly recommend is the 50mm 1.8G. So this is the successor to the 1.8D. It's about $200 new, and it offers internal focusing, AFS motor, and one of the biggest advantages over the old 1.8D is that the bokeh looks a lot better, a lot less harsh than the 1.8D. So this is a very light lens. It gives you a very standard focal length of 50mm, so basically what your eyes see. So a great street lens to use. It's not too wide, it's not too telephoto, and 1.8 means you can shoot in low light, or if you want blurred background, it's great for that. There is the 1.4G, which offers a little more light, 2/3 of a stop, but actually I prefer 1.8G. One, because it's $200 cheaper, and second, it focuses twice as fast. This is the 50mm 1.8G mounted on the D700. It looks great, it looks very balanced, and because it's so light, it's also very easy to carry around. And focus speed is relatively fast. Not quite as fast as the D lenses, because those use the internal motor, but for the AFS silent focusing option, it's pretty fast. And of course you can override focus anytime with the focus ring here. So a great prime lens for $200 only. Now I have one more lens I'd like to mention that's not part of the original $1,000 budget, but if you are going to do photojournalism or sports photography and you don't want to shell out $2,500 for the 70-200 VR2 lens, then this lens will perform almost equally and save you a lot of money. And the lens is the 80-200 AFS D Nikon lens. So this goes 80-200, so it's only 10mm different from the 70-200. It does not have VR, but you can up the ISO to compensate. So this is the D version with the aperture control here. Also, it has focal stop buttons right here. It goes 80-200. Focus is done internally by the AFS motor, so it's silent. Also, the build is solid. It feels metal right here. And in terms of optics, it's extremely sharp. Probably the sharpest lens I've ever used. Definitely not any worse than the 70-200. Actually, I think people say this is sharper than the first generation of the 70-200. And the cost of this is about $1,000 or maybe $900. So you save about $1,500 for almost the same probably the same optical quality, just without the VR. So if VR is not worth $1,500 to you, then you should get this lens for your assignments for photojournalism or sports and etc. So these are the four lenses that I talked about, which cost about $1,000, but satisfy most photographers' needs for 99% of the time. They also give you professional or near professional optical quality for a very non-professional price. So with the money you save, you can maybe feed your children or feed the lion on the next safari that you can now afford. But in any case, I do hope you try these lenses out, and I'm sure you'll like them. And as always, thank you for watching.